Okay, so we are in the expressions unit, and one thing that we need to talk about is the distributive property. So you might have heard the word distribute before. You might have heard it in terms of distribution centers, where like Walmart has a distribution center that they keep a bunch of goods at, and then they share those goods out with the different stores around the state or around the country. If I distribute a set of papers to the class, that means I have all the papers, and then I'm basically passing them out to you guys. So with the distributive property, you touched on it a bit last year, and the problems that you solved looked like this. Okay, and you can solve that by order of operations by adding within the parentheses and then multiplying by 2. But since we're distributing, that means this 2, which is being multiplied, because we know that there's not a sign here, and if it's pressed up against those parentheses, that indicates multiplication. It wants to multiply everything within parentheses. So you have to distribute it through the parentheses. So you can take the 2 and multiply it by the 6 and get 12. But you also have to multiply the 2 by the 8 and get 16. And then we could add those together to get the final answer of 28. So this is a review of what you guys talked about last year. The way it's going to look a little different in 7th grade is that you're going to have variables thrown in there as well as negatives and positives, because last year you only worked with positive numbers. So a problem that you might see this year might be negative, we'll just do 5 parentheses x plus 4. And another way that you can think of this is that there's 5 groups of x plus 4. So we could have x plus 4 5 different times. And if we want to combine our like terms, we know the coefficient of all these x's is 1. So then we are left with 5 x's, and then 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 is going to give us 20. So that's the way to do it the long way. The distributive property is kind of the shortcut. So we have that 5 hanging outside of parentheses, indicating that we need to multiply anything within the parentheses by 5. So we're going to take the 5 and distribute to the x, and the 5 and distribute to the y. And I always want you guys to draw the arrows so that you don't forget, because a common mistake in this is to forget to distribute all the way to the second term within the parentheses. So if we do 5 times x, that becomes 5x. 5 times 4, that becomes the 20, and we get the same answer that we just saw. Okay, like I said, you might also see some with negative numbers within there. So let's say we have negative 3 outside parentheses of m minus 7. So using the distributive property, we're going to know that we take negative 3 times m and negative 3 times our negative 7. Negative 3 times m is going to give us negative 3m. Negative 3 times negative 7 is going to give us a positive 21. And we know that this is simplified all the way because there are no more like terms. Finally, the last problem that you might see is we've got our number outside of our parentheses. And then maybe we have another term on the outside. Okay, so the 4 is only getting distributed to anything in the parentheses. So the 4 does not multiply the 3x because it's not in the parentheses. The 4 is going to multiply this 3x, and the 4 is going to multiply this negative 4. So we're going to distribute, and we're going to get 12x. We're going to get 4 times negative 4 minus 16, and then that 3x we just slide on down. Okay, so now we know we're not simplified all the way because we see a set of like terms. So if we add our 12x and our 3x, that's going to give us 15x, and then our minus 16. Now we don't have any more like terms. So I'm going to show you a couple more problems just so that you get used to the distributive property. Okay, so the negative 7 is outside of our parentheses, so we're going to draw our arrows to say that we have to multiply the negative 7 by the 2m and the negative 7 by the 6. Does not multiply the 11 because the 11 is not in our parentheses. So negative 7 times 2m is going to give us negative 14m. Negative 7 times 6 gives us a negative 42. And then we bring down our plus 11. There's no more terms with an m attached, so we can't add anything to that, but we can add our two constants together. So our negative 42 plus 11 gives us a negative 31. And that is simplified all the way. One last problem. Okay, so we have a 5 outside of parentheses. Here's our term with the variables. Most of the time it's first within the parentheses, the first term in there, but not always, so I just wanted to show you one like that. So we have 5 times 4 and 5 times 3m. So 5 times 4 is going to give us 20. 5 times 3m is going to give us 15m. Then we just bring down our negative 5m. It was not in the parentheses, so it did not get multiplied by the 5. Our like terms are our 15m and our negative 5m. So we're going to get 20 plus 10m as our final answer. So that is the distributive property. It's when you see a number hanging outside parentheses and you know to multiply that number to every term within the parentheses.